This is going to be our quick and easy video on how to maintenance and repair your 40 max canister. These canisters are really good. They're solid, they're fully aluminum, they can hold quite a lot of pressure, but there's quite a few O-rings and small parts that can go wrong. To fix this, for in its entirety of what could possibly go wrong, we're going to need a couple of tools. You can get a set of spare O-rings from Frontline Foam. It comes in a pack of 6, one for every O-ring on the entire canister. So you should be able to do an entire, basically rebuild with this set. For tools, I'm gonna need a flathead to undo the inlet on the back. I like to use 2 smaller flatheads or 2 very small something pokey that you can push and reinstall the inlet O-rings. And to fix some of the chamfering, if you need to, like to use some of these chamfering tools, either an edge deburr or a chamfering tool, and of course green gas to test it when we're done. So we'll first test for leaks, and put your ear up to it and listen. Yeah, this one doesn't need repaired, but we'll show you anyway. This one does not leak. When you push the button, it should fire. This one's pretty much perfect. A common issue with these is if you press the button and fire the gas, that it won't reset. So we'll press the button. We'll see if this one leaks. This one does not leak, but we'll press the button to fire the gas. It kind of did like kind of a hiccup, and the button also, did at first. It got stuck like that. The button won't fully reset. So the easiest way to fix this is, as the O-rings kind of wear out or they need lube, you can just push the back in all the way until the front is flush and then let go, and that could reset. If it doesn't reset, another thing you could try, like see that's flush-ish, is just loosening, giving them a little turn to loosen it, and you hear it pop into place, and then that's ready to go and reset. So let's see if that... Yeah, so it's kind of acting a little weird, so I'll take this one apart. To take it apart, I like to press the middle button in and push the front button in, or press the back button and then press the front button. So the whole mechanism is then in the base, so it should be pressed in all the way, and that should be a little less than flush. Then we'll be able to unscrew it without the internals coming loose. So this is just a shell, and this is the internals. So you see some O-rings, you have the inlet, and if I press this back button to release the internals, you'll see the rest of the O-rings in there. You'll see a couple of ball bearings and the return spring. Those bearings like to roll everywhere, so keep those handy, but you have those 3 main O-rings here. And so if you needed to, you would replace those O-rings. Hard to know if you need to replace them, but if you hear a leak coming from a certain place, that's kind of a good giveaway. So you've got these 3 larger ones. The largest one is for the base, then the medium one is for the top, and then the medium-sized one is for the middle there. And these are for the inlet. So if you fill it and you can hear leaking from the front, then that'll be that O-ring. If you hear leaking coming from this back main button, that'll be the middle O-ring. And if you hear leaking from the inlet, that'll be the inlet O-rings. So you replace those as needed. This one kind of had a weird hiccup when it fired as well. A lot of times that is due to the O-rings being dry and getting stuck. So we'll take our lube. This is a pure silicone lubricant. You'll know it's the good stuff because it doesn't have any additives. And if you taste it, you won't taste the petroleum in it. You want one that's a little less viscous than this one. You want one that's about 200 in the chemical weight, or CST. And that way when you apply it, you'll still be able to have it kind of spread out to where you need it, but it'll be thick enough to stay on. This works well enough. A little thicker would be better, so I'm just going to re-lube those O-rings. That should help. The other thing I've noticed is if you're consistently getting the back button not reset, and this front isn't fully seated, so if the front's not fully seated, then the button in the back won't be able to fully reset either, because the ball bearings are not correctly spaced. So what I find helps is if you, on the inside of this front of the canister, if you take a chamfer bit and run it in the inside, or even just an edge deburr, and you just deburr that edge a tiny bit, give that a little bit more depth, So that way the O-ring can see a tiny bit further. That is often enough to get it to reset. I will show what that looks like. So I'm going to press the middle in, and to get that to stay in, I'm going to press the bottom button to get that to reset together in one unit. And then when I install that, if I press this button in the back, the front button will not sit all the way forward yet, causing the button in the back to not reset either. But if I press the button in the back to squish that O-ring so that is reset just a tiny bit more, my back button pops out right away. So again, that's, press the back button a little bit. It doesn't yet fully reset. Oh, so that's not fully reset yet. The back button's not reset. But if I press that O-ring in a tiny bit more, oh, that resets. So that O-ring just is slightly too big, or the tolerances are just slightly off, so that either untwisting it, making it a bit longer, or giving it a little bit more of a chamfer on that front makes it so it resets fully every time. So now it's resetting every time because I loosened it. So what we can do is very carefully, you don't want to take off too much, but if you just deburr and make that inside a little bit wider to give that O-ring a tiny bit more room to sit. Now, if you do too much, the O-ring will no longer seal. It will have enough room to move in, but it won't seal. So you could use a larger O-ring here if you accidentally take off too much, but that's not too bad. And then we'll push the button again, and we see that resets every single time. Now I see I've locked it in the back position. I press the back button, and it resets every time, no problem. So I'll see if it leaks. Maybe I took off too much. It's leaking from the back O-ring actually now. So we'll fill it up. It's actually not leaking now. It was just leaking because it needed to get worked in a little bit, but now it's not leaking at all. And when I fire it, it fully resets now. No leak. Fully resets and doesn't sputter either. So that's nice. Okay, so the last thing is if it's leaking from the inlet, if you fill it up and you hear the leaking in here, or it won't even go in here, sometimes you'll put the gas in and it'll just come immediately out of where it's going in, then we'll want to replace the inlet O-rings, and that's going to be the inlet here. So use a flathead screwdriver and lefty-loosey that sucker until it comes out. Then you see your inlet here. Now this guy is overly complicated. You have an O-ring on the back, which is going to be this big one here. Then you have two O-rings on the inside. So if you unscrew this brass piece, carefully unscrew that, and then you'll have a little spring. That spring will reset the pin. Do not lose that. And then the pin itself has an O-ring on the inside as well. So if you take one of your small screwdrivers or picks and you push up, you'll be able to see the pin moves in and out, and if you look carefully, you'll see the O-ring in there. So what you do, I find the easiest way is if you're replacing those O-rings, is just to push down the inside really hard with something really skinny, like an 1.5" Allen key, millimeter, 1.5" millimeter Allen key. I'm gonna press down that really hard. Maybe support something on the back side. I'm gonna support that back side on here. It's going to fall into my canister, but that's okay. This O-ring is still really good, causing a lot of resistance, but we're going to pop it out anyway. Yikes. Oh, I can see it coming out. I can see it slowly coming out. It's insanely hard to tell. But a little more, and I'll just keep pushing down. This 1.5 millimeter might be too hot. There you go. So I got the inlet out. It's now stuck in my canister, so I'm just going to take that out. This is my preferred way to do it. But supporting it on something will work. Anything will work. There you go. So there is the inlet valve, or stem. You can see the front O-ring I've mangled in getting it removed. Yeah, you can see it's kind of deformed now, but I got two O-rings on there. Even though they do look two different sizes, we found that the same size here works for either one. So I'm going to take off that one I mangled. So we are going to remove that O-ring on the stem. You can see actually I have half the O-ring on here, so I just destroyed that O-ring. So you're going to take the rest of the O-ring off. Okay, there, destroyed that O-ring. That one's garbage. Now we've got this guy here. You can see the missing O-ring on the top of the stem there. We're gonna replace that with one of our little guys. But in order to replace it and get it back in, we're gonna install it in the valve first. So a lot of times your leaky O-ring would be this valve O-ring here. You can replace that with the big one. It's much wider than the one that already came with it, but it's okay because it fits in the hole just perfectly. Replace that stem with the pointy end, the inlet, facing up. Then replace that spring, and we'll tighten that all the way, nice and tight, and then we'll put that O-ring on top. So again, I'll put it back on the base, and then I'll put the O-ring on top, just like that. And then with two very small little toothpicks, you don't want to damage the O-ring, but you want to push that O-ring around the stem. So I'm going to try with a small flat head and my tweezers here, pushing down one side and then stretching it over the other side and pushing down. There we go. Got it. Just like that. Now we should be able to close it up and see it still work. No leak. And we fire and we reset. There you go. That's how to replace the O-rings. It's kind of a laborious process, but hopefully you learned something, and I could probably still file the inside of that one a little more because it's not fully resetting. Yeah, I'm gonna file deburr the inside a little more. Give that O-ring some more room to reset, and if you need to, re-lube. Fire. Yeah, that's better. There you go. Hopefully that helped you use your 40 Max more reliably. When we first got ours, yeah, they're not perfect. Tolerances, I think, are a little off, but they work well when you have them maintained well. Good luck.